Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the December meeting of the koha-US sysadmin users special interest group. I hope the rest of my day goes better than making coffee did right before this, because my espresso machine decided to froth milk all over itself in addition to into the cup. That's why I was a couple minutes late. So hopefully things go smoother from here. How's everyone doing this morning?
Doing well. Good, thanks. Does your coffee taste good?
Oh yeah, it tastes delicious.
Okay, that's all that matters. You're
It's a double espresso with vanilla, chai, and pumpkin pie spice.
Ooh. Too bad you
Because
can't share.
Yeah, if only I could make more coffees and hand them through the Zoom. So this morning, Heather will be right over. It's kind of cold here, Heather. I'm pretty sure it's colder here than it is there. I don't think we're supposed to get above freezing again this year. Yeah. Okay. So, does anyone have any sysadmin announcements? They would probably be coming from me, and I don't have any. So, let's see. Any reports that people want to talk about, or reports questions that people have? I've still been working some on doing like a dashboard report like Christopher talked about, or his at the fall conference. Still working on it, but one thing that I've been doing in reports more frequently lately is unioning like multiple things together, which I hadn't done much before. But it's like yesterday I was working on our, like, we have a late serials report, and it includes anything that's claimed or expected and is late, and is anything that's like missing. And the way that it was sorting it all by like subscription title and then status. But we wanted to put all the ones that are claimed at like the bottom of the list, so it's still easy for our person who does that to see what's been claimed. But it's not. It's easier for her to go through and just deal with the ones that need to be dealt with. So I just like split it into two and unioned it with the claims in one report below, ones that have been claimed below and the ones that hadn't above. I've also been using case more, especially for like lost statuses and stuff. We just say like case if it's this, say what the description actually is instead of having to like link in values, and it's a lot faster that way. And my staff appreciate that too.
I was just looking at my most recently tested on reports. I was trying to fight with my club holds reports again. That didn't go anywhere. I was playing with the idea of generating a tag cloud. Like the OPEC has the tag cloud thing, right? But it doesn't get much use because it's like patron generated for the most part. So I was playing with the idea of replacing that with a subject cloud. So pulling subjects out of all of our records with counts and then generating a cloud based on the counts. So like if the more frequent the subject is used, the bigger the word would be, that kind of thing. But I don't have any progress on that either.
Neat.
That sounds fantastic. And I would be interested in having both.
I would too.
So I've got a report running that counts the frequency and the subject. but it's really slow. So it would have to be like a cache once a day type of thing that updates. But I was thinking about embedding that on the front page of our OPAC once I got it working. Yeah.
Have
So-
It's
you,
pretty neat.
do you have a report that will run all the subjects in your system with counts? Now, like if I just ran it I currently don't have that information because they're not linked to authorities.
I'll share my screen. It's not perfected at all. But this is the report that I've got going right now, and I haven't looked at this for a little while. So so it's pulling just 650s. It's looking at the first 5 650s in every record that isn't a BISAC because I didn't like how those looked. And I'm only looking at bib numbers greater than 500,000, so it's only the newest stuff. I was thinking about, and that this report still took like 2 minutes to run. But it gives you the count of how many times it's used. It's sorted by frequency. So man-woman relationships is our hottest subject with 4,500 on our newest items, and then it goes down from there. So it sort of works. It probably needs more refinement.
Okay.
But
And
that's,
it would only show you main headings, not subfields.
right. So I'm just looking at the subfield A, but you can like when you're querying marked data, you can leave that part off and it'll do the whole subfield or the whole field. Or you can add in like additional lines.
I need to know how to do that. I'm trying to write reports. There's certain fields that are very localized that we're trying to remove from the bibliographic record because we're a consortium and it's going to get over, it's one day going to get overwritten. So it needs to move into the item field. And it wasn't done. So I'm having to go back and like, okay, I need to know what all the information in that 852 is so I can make sure it was put in the 952. And right now I figured out how to do the A, but not all the subfields.
And there's some good information on the wiki about querying marked data, some good examples. So like this one here is kind of what I pulled from to get the subfield A. But I know that you can pull like the full tag as well. So you can look through this information a little bit more. It might give you what you're looking for. But a lot of my experience with that is just trial and error and crashing things. Like I've got a proxy error on my other screen right now. So that's something. Timed out my report, my new SAS server again.
I'm familiar with crashing things.
In that
My
report,
approach to the mark metadata is just to make a guess and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, then try another guess until I just keep pounding that wall, bang your head against that wall till you knock a hole through it.
I'm wanting to know which wall to bang my head against. Instead of
Sounds-
doing all 5, instead of doing every wall in the room and then the last one, I finally break the, oh, that's the one I want.
Sometimes you got to do that.
Yeah, I have to learn SQL. Thank you so much for that session on the KohaCon. I just have to go back and practice.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest things is that just practicing is how you get there. Like when I first started, I would just like take a report that was as similar to what I was trying to do as I could find, either out of our many reports that we already had or the reports library, and then just start like, okay, well, this is close, but I need it these fields instead, and I need it to query off of that instead, and just like little replacements as much as I could. So,
So I was having internet trouble there at the beginning of the meeting. When you asked if anybody had any interesting reports, I just rewrote all of my statistical reports that have to do with item locations in statistics. Because the statistics table, since we've been using the cart feature, when you check things in and out and their location is cart, you know, the way that the cart feature works is it creates essentially a secondary location. When you turn on the cart feature, you create a secondary location in the item record called item permanent location. And all of the things that have the item location and the item permanent location should always match unless the item has just been recently returned and it's got that cart location for however many hours you tell Koha you want it to have that cart location after a check-in. The problem is that when you check something out that has that cart location, the statistics table records cart as the item's location. It doesn't record the item's permanent location in the statistics table. It records the cart location. So I've just updated all of our statistical reports that gather data from the statistics table so that if an item has a cart location, instead of calling it cart, it's gonna, it slows down the statistic gathering, because if you have all that data in statistics, the report runs really fast because you're only querying one table. But what I've got now is I have it set so that if it comes across those cart locations, then it tries to find the item record if the item hasn't been deleted yet, and pull in the permanent location and replace that with the cart location. So naturally I screwed that up, and I accidentally had some libraries checking out more things in their, you know, we have one column on the statistics table and in their monthly statistics that says these are the total number of items you checked out. Our three shelving locations are adult, children's, and young adult. And so they would, you know, our library in Richmond checked out like 400 books, 400 items in October, and over 1,000 of them were children's books, and over 4,000 of them were adult books. And so I obviously made a mistake somewhere, but that's something. I think there is a bug out there saying make it optional to use the item permanent location to record that in the statistics table instead of the item's location.
George, can you show an example from one of your reports of what you're using?
It'd take me a minute to dig one up, but yeah, hold on just a minute.
So on that note, George, I ran into a problem last week that I had to get Bywater to troubleshoot for me. We used the cart function, and I was using a join to the authorized values table, and I didn't join it to the permanent location. I had joined it to just the plain location. So if you have any of those joins with item regular location, you might want to just double check, because that I was off by like 2 or 3 for every single line, and just beating my head against the wall and could not figure out where it was coming from. And it was just that one stupid word. So if anyone else uses the cart location and they joined your authorized values, beware.
We haven't been using it that long.
It's a really great function though. Ours is only set to 36 hours. It's just enough to give us time to get it back to the shelf before people start beating down the staff door to get what's ever on the shelving, you know, the holding location.
We have the timing on ours set, I believe, for 4 hours, but then I only have the report run like 8 in the morning, noon, And I think it's just 8 in the morning and noon. So that kind of gives it, you know, if things are checked in the morning, they show back on the shelf by the end of the day. But if things are checked in the afternoon, they won't show back on the shelf until the next morning. And that was at the request of our libraries, because some of our libraries, you know, initially when we turned on the cart feature, we had it set for 4 days because libraries were checking things in and then quarantining them for 4 days. But now we're back, you know, some of our smaller libraries, the amount of time it takes to get from check-in to back on the shelf is about 3 minutes. Because some of our smallest libraries are in towns of less than 300 people.
So George was making me queasy because I thought that I was probably going to have the same problem that he has, but it looks like that my yearly stats already considered the items table. So hopefully not. I'm not seeing any quarantine or cart stuff on my year-end stats.
You only have to worry about it if you're going after the statistics table.
I am. That's usually what we use.
While George is looking for that, I have a question for the group. Has anyone ever written a report that runs circulation off and items that came from a specific order?
No, we don't use the acquisitions feature, or the orders at least. We use purchase suggestions, but that's the only thing we use out of acquisitions.
Yeah, it's the same issue I have, is we don't use acquisitions. So I've never written a report that would do that.
Okay, yeah, I'm having a little bit of trouble hopping through some of the tables, but maybe at the next meeting I'll present it to see if anybody can help me. If I haven't figured it out by then. I just started this request, so it's been kind of interesting trying to jump through tables I don't usually use. So, okay, thanks.
Would they by any chance have been cataloged together or have the same like acquire date?
I don't think so, because I think they're all coming in at different times. Yeah, so yeah, she wants to see how a specific order they put in for a specific demand, like patron suggestions or something, or they're running a special project on something, and they want to see like this one basket, how well do these basket items, that basket circulate. It's like, I will ask the group.
Yeah.
I'm just
Okay,
looking at
so
the
I found the
orders
report.
table. And that does link to bibs, at least. And I know there's also an acquisition orders items table. So you should be able to use acquisition orders and then acquisition order items to link in those specific item numbers to the stats table.
Yeah, this is what I have so far. Using the order basket from order numbers to the acquisition orders, link it to the ACK order items table, to the items table, to the bid table, to the stat table. It's a lot of jumps.
Yeah, I think anytime you're going to try and link circulation to acquisitions, it's going to be a lot of jumps.
Yeah.
And anytime you have a jump, you introduce the possibility of errors. So, and you slow everything down.
Yeah.
So I found that report, one of them, and so I can share my screen and
Sounds good.
this screen. So you see a report there?
Right now it just says you've started screen sharing. There we go.
Oh, okay. So this is a report that we run for all our libraries that does circulation at each library by I guess since this one's by item type. And the 3 columns I was having trouble with are adult, young adult, and child. And the actual code in the report, it's a complicated report because it's actually running, I think, 5 sub reports. But you know, the adult sub report here is doing everything you would expect it to. You know, I'm getting the branch from statistics, and if a branch is empty, I'm going to substitute NEKLS, and I'm getting item type from statistics, and if an item type is empty, I insert book, and then I count checkouts and renews. But the part here that's you know, where I was having issues, where I have to drag in the item number from the items table is if I've got this left join on items, and so if statistics location, I'm always assuming that there is a statistics location, but if there isn't, I'm inserting processing center. So if that statistics location equals cart, then it's going to coalesce with, it's going to grab the item permanent location. And if it doesn't equal cart, then it's just going to do what it did at the beginning. So it's pretty simple, just for that one part of just for that one subquery. But the way I complicate it more is I don't want to run this report. I don't want to run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reports. So I've just got them all joined together into one report with 5 subqueries. So I don't know if that helps or not, Rebecca.
Yeah, that's great. I'm always impressed at your reports.
The reason I wouldn't share this one in the SQL library on the wiki is because it's got a lot of assumptions in here. It's written for NEKLS because it has these things in it that specifically reference NEKLS and reference our existing authorized values for shelving locations.
Could you drop, George, could you drop just that little part with the coalesce and the statistics in the
I'm trying
chat?
to. I'm trying to, but I can't get it to copy off the screen, and I don't know why.
I have a feeling I may need to look at my reports.
Well, George works on that. The next thing on the agenda, which I just realized I never shared in the chat, is jQuery. Anyone working on any interest in jQuery stuff? Jason just made quite the face.
I'm just looking.
Okay. Yesterday I figured out how to make fields required on the staff side purchase suggestions, because you can't do, there's not a system preference for it. There's a bug related to making a system preference, which I'll put in the chat. But for now, the only way to do it is with jQuery. And I did that yesterday because we've been having a lot of problems with people either not selecting an item type when they're filling out a staff side purchase suggestion, or like not putting in notes. Like if we have a note about something, then we're supposed to put initials in on all of our staff side ones, so that if we have questions about it, we can. Oh, thanks, George, for putting that in the chat. I'll also put it in the agenda. Only title is required on the staff side, purchase suggestions. So I made document type and notes required, and also use some jQuery to make it so that audiobook isn't, which is our first one, isn't selected by default. So you have to actually select something here. I didn't bother adding the required that part yet. I'll probably work on that so it matches up better. But for now, I just gave them the required class, both the thin and the label. Yeah, let's see. So just on the add suggestion screen, partially because unselecting the item type option and disabling that first one that I put in that says select an item type from this list would mess it up if it was also doing that on edit potentially. And then made the item type and note required there. So our person who does purchase suggestions is very pleased with the new additions. Because she's been spending a lot of time lately running down all those issues. Like almost all of our purchase suggestions last week were audiobooks from the same couple of staff members who are newer. And she had to spend quite a bit of time like talking to them about it, and then they had to call all the patrons and confirm if they wanted books or audiobooks because they hadn't filled it out right. Because our staff member hadn't filled it out right. So that was a lot of time.
I once filled a purchase suggestion out for somebody I was training, and I just put the title as test and I selected video. And this is when Brianna was still working at Latah County Library. And then I forgot to delete it. And so she ordered, there is a movie called Test. It's about these in the closet gay dancers in the 80s at the beginning of the AIDS epidemic. And so she bought it and then put it on my desk. And I said, wow, this is not what I was expecting at all. Most people, when they see Test, they just delete those.
Or check with you and say,
yeah, did you
that
really want this movie about gay in the closet gay dancers in the early 80s at the beginning of the AIDS epidemic? She was new. She didn't know me that well. And she did kind of give, and she kind of rolled her eyes when I told her, oh, it was just a mistake. Like, yeah, really, that's a mistake. I do have some jQuery. I'm not going to turn my camera back on again because I keep having trouble. I don't know that I have this turned on for purchase suggestions, but I do have some code that what it does is when you click on the submit button, like for a write-off or a paid item, it inserts the username of who's logged in and the location of where they're logged in at into the note field. So let me pull up a patron that has some fines on them, and let me see if I can, or I can just go to a patron and add a fine and show you what it looks like. But I'm sure that that could be adapted to the purchase suggestion form as well. So at least you would have some easy idea there, you know, of who in the system placed a purchase suggestion. Let me just grab one of these people.
I think it already tells you that on the purchase suggestions. It says who created it.
Does it?
Yeah.
I don't want to go to purchase suggestions because that would put a lot of people's identities out there. Let's see, accounting. I think that stuff might be in there now that I think about it. I think you are right.
Yeah, it says who it's created by, so it'll tell you if it was the patron, it'll put the patron in, but if it's not, if it was created on the staff side, it'll put whoever created it from the staff side on.
See, without putting anything, without touching the note field at all, when I clicked save there, it adds this note into the note field that says invoice created by G. Williams at NEKLS on date and time. And then if I go to pay this, if I'm on the make a payment page, if I do a pay, and I just confirm it, it'll do the same thing where it'll stick a note in there that said that this was paid or processed by G. Williams and NEKLS. So it's grabbing the data from up here to plug into that note field. What I find helpful about that, where there aren't places where it's easy to see who did something,
You at least
is
have a
that-
little bit of information without
Yeah,
having
there's-
to like look at the action logs.
yeah, you don't have to query the action logs to find out. I've got this set up for claims returns and creating invoices, creating credits, write-offs, payments, and it seems like a couple of other places where, and that way it leaves a note that staff can see instead of without having to run a report to say, you know, when did this happen and who was logged in and what library were they at when this happened. But I think you're right. I think that information is in the purchase suggestions. I just,
It
you know,
is. I went and checked. Yeah.
yeah, in this job, I don't do enough. I don't do purchase suggestions anymore, so I don't have to deal with that.
So I looked at my jQuery and I do have some stuff I was working on. I can share if you want. Let me share my screen. This one maybe. Okay, so the first thing is the links to the cover images. This is something that changed during the upgrade, and I was having frustration with it. My catalogers were having frustration with it. So like when you click on this, sometimes it takes you to the image directly. Sometimes it does like a lightbox thing, but it never takes you to Amazon, and we use that because we have to go out and check like pub dates and stuff like that. So I added a little icon here that just generates the Amazon link based on the ISBN, which is stored in this image that takes you out to Amazon. And that jQuery is here. So basically it's just generating, it's grabbing the ISBN from that image link, which is there, and then it's generating a new one and appending it to the end. It still does funky stuff. So like if it doesn't have an image, I need to clean this up a little more. And actually it's not doing it on my test server. On my live server, I think it still says like there's an image from Amazon here, even though there's not. And then the links don't work. So it's a little clunky, but it gives us a direct route to Amazon so we can look at the information they have there. So that's that one. And then I've been fighting with series from the API again. Barbara and I have talked about this a little bit. I thought that I didn't need to worry about it anymore because the series information is in the style sheets by default now. So if you're using the default style sheets, you get series links on your search results, but it still traces. So if there's an 800, then it's generating extra stuff in the search string, like goes to both the series title and the author. And that's not what we want that to do. We want it to just search the series title. So I've hidden that, and then I've used the API to bring the series information back in using some code that I harvested from Barbara, who got from Lucas, I think. And I've got that mostly working now. It does do some weird chunk with undefined, like, so it's only a specific case. It's like if the 490 exists, but it doesn't have a V, or if the 440 exists, but it doesn't have a V, one or the other, then it'll put in undefined for the book number. So I had to add some extra jQuery after the page loads to get rid of those undefined things. So it's still clunky, but it works better. And it allows me to not have to use custom XSLT, which is my end goal with this. And in the same vein, on the OPAC, I figured out how to add the 007 icons that I've got. So in my live catalog, I've got these here, and that's built into the XSLT right now. In my test catalog, I haven't pushed this in. It looks the same, but I don't have custom XSLT running. These are just pulling in from the API. So it's overly complex, but basically it's looking at the 007, the different positions, so the 0, the 1, and the 4, building a string based on that, and then checking that, and depending on what that string is, putting in a different icon. So you can see that if it's VDV, then I'm putting in the DVD icon. If it's VFD, then it's a VHS icon. So yeah, those are things that I've been working on, and they're sort of working, so I'm excited about that. And I can share that code. I'll just paste that directly into the agenda over there.
Sounds good.
Again, not perfect, but I'm excited that the goal is to not have to worry about XSLT anymore, because that's a pain to update. And anytime that we get an upgrade, there's new stuff going into those default sheets that we're not getting because we're using a custom sheet.
Jason, I'm curious. Does your libraries put journal titles in the series or just books? Where do they put the journal titles?
We're primarily public, so we don't have any journals in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lucky you.
I guess I'm lucky too.
Journals are a headache.
I've been working on something with jQuery that I haven't gotten very far. My big breakthrough was figuring out why it only worked like 30% of the time. But the question has come up here, you know, if you use the claims return feature, and you mark something as claims returned and you click the box that says don't build a patron for it, or whatever it is, whatever step you take that doesn't build a patron for it, one of our libraries would like to, you know, mark things as claims returned, search for it 3 or 4 times, and then if they don't find it, then go back and build a patron for it. And there's no way to go to a claims return now and say, okay, now build this item. And so I've been working on creating a button that will pull the item data from that line and take you to the invoice page and create an invoice that has the data that plugs the item data into the invoice without having to copy and paste anything. That just grabs the data for that item record from a report or from the API, and then sticks all that data into the form. And I've gotten as far now as creating the button and getting it to load on that data table. And that was a colossal pain, because the problem with that data table is that it doesn't load until you open the claims return tab. And so I figured out the jQuery to get the button on there, but it was only working about 30 to 40% of the time. Sometimes it'd be there and I go, great, I got it figured out. And then I would reload the page and like, now it's not there. What the hell did I do? I didn't change a damn thing. And now it's not working. And so what I figured out is that it needs to run not just on a init-DT, an initialized data table, but I've got it set now to where it runs on initialized data table, and then there's like a half a second delay, because that was the issue, is sometimes that data table load didn't happen as quick as the data table loading. But I think I've got all the parts there, and maybe next month I'll be able to show that off to where There could just be a button at the end of the claims return table that you click and it takes you to the patrons create invoice page and plugs in all the data for that. Would be that'd be a big convenience in the claims return function. So
Yeah, that'd be a huge time saver.
yeah, I think it's going to involve a report. I can isolate the barcode number from that from that claims return table pretty easily, but then it's going to have to, the button is going to have to plug that barcode number into a report that grabs the information about the item and then opens the form for the invoice page.
Neat. That sounds really cool. Okay. Does anyone have any bugs they want to talk about?
Looking at my wall of bugs posted up over there. I don't think I have any sysadmin ones, but I just want to say that I hate bug number 29411, which has to do with patron searches, and it's resolved and fixed, and has been asked to be backported. So hopefully we'll get backported.
Yes. Oh, that's perfect. I'm having a meeting with my consortium leader today, and they were asking about the status of this. So, cool. Oh, okay, we found something. Wait, let me find the bug number. Did I not
Do you have a link
actually
for that bug? You
bug?
can put in the chat, Jason.
I beat Lisette on my screen. I don't know who won the race there.
You beat her on my screen too.
You beat him.
Congratulations.
Yep.
What a victory.
Yep. You won on my screen too, but it hadn't shown up yet when I hit enter. So.
Should we all sing "We Are the Champions"?
No.
I think
It's
that'd
too
be
hard
great.
to coordinate.
We'll clip it out. We'll put it on the website. It'll be great.
I mean, we can try, but singing on Zoom doesn't ever seem to sync up very well.
We just need like synchronized lip syncing, and then we put the original track over it, and then we get like a copyright strike on YouTube.
Exactly. Yeah. Sounds great. So I actually thought I had put in another bug for that last month without having found 29411. Or related to that, where now I'm not seeing it. But we found that if somebody, and I think it's related to this bug, I think it might be fixed when this bug gets fixed, where if somebody doesn't have the ability, if they have, oh, what's this? What's the, where they can't edit and add patrons.
Yeah, if they don't have remaining permissions.
Then if they type in a name and it tries to go to the details screen instead of the checkout screen, they get a you can't do that. So they can't like look up users by ID if they don't have their card with them, which has been a problem for some of our libraries that run on volunteers or that sometimes have like teachers cover if the librarian's gone. Especially because a lot of the schools, they just look them up by name and don't.
I can explain what happened there. There was a shortcut fix. It used to be in checkout, if you did a search for like the letter, if you just type in S in the search box, it would try to load a full page of everybody who had an S in their name. And so somebody said, why don't we just, instead of, but it doesn't do that in the patron search, because that's a data table. It only learned if there's 10,000 results, it'll only load the first 20. And so rather than making the circulation results be a data table also, they said, why don't we just redirect the circulation searches to the patron search. And initially I said, this is not a bad bug to fix, but I didn't realize there was going to be that secondary consequence. I don't remember who was fixing that, who wrote that patch to redirect everything, but that's the underlying issue, is that somebody was fixing one problem and not realizing there was an unintended side effect.
Yeah.
It's a good thing that needs to be fixed, but it would be better just to put a data table on the checkout search results than to, but I think that's harder, which is why I think they opted for redirecting the patron results.
So hopefully that'll get back ported. Fingers crossed. We don't have to wait till next spring when we update next to get that sorted out. So, any other bugs people want to talk about? Oh, Barbara put one in the chat, 26058.
This one has to do with putting holds on patron possessions, which we're fine with when we have all our graphic novels on one bib record, so all the volumes are there. So people can put holds on things they already have out or on other items, I guess. But somebody wanted us to, we've got Chromebooks and hotspots and other stuff like that, and we don't want them to keep putting a hold on the hotspot they already have out. I did this a while ago, so I'm trying to remember exactly what we wanted, but just bringing attention to that if that's something that would be of use to other libraries.
Yeah, that would be helpful for us for the same reasons, like our hotspots and stuff, being able to say, we have a few patrons who just, they'll have one checked out and they'll have like 3 holds because that's how many holds we allow per item record. And just like always have one of our hotspots basically, which like if they're not getting used, like right now we have a couple on the shelf available. But if there's a long holds list, that's like extra annoying that the same person is basically just like always taking up one, or sometimes more than one if one comes in and is like waiting on hold and then they come just like trade it out. So I totally agree with that and I've added myself to the list. Lauren put one in the chat as well.
We recently discovered, I don't know when it happened, that our libraries page, when you click to see all the libraries in Koha, it's empty. It doesn't exist. So I can't edit any information. I can't add, delete. Has anyone?
Oh, on the staff side?
Yeah.
Huh. Ours
That's weird.
Ours works. What version of Koha are you on?
2011.
Which we're on 2105, so I wonder if this got fixed in 2105. Does anyone else have that? I'm seeing in the bug that there's.
Can you share your screen at all, Lauren?
Yeah.
And show us that?
We'll go here. So.
What happens if you try like exporting? Does it export all your library data?
That's a good question.
I mean, I'm not sure what that tells us. I'm just curious.
Well, it would tell us if it's there or not.
That's true.
It would tell us if maybe there's something interfering with loading the data table,
Ah,
but it's not showing us anything. That's messed up.
Yeah. It's not just that the data table is the problem. That might be worth adding to the bug. Just like, hey, also if I export it, that's not.
okay.
Well, I guess if the data table's not loading, you can't export anything from the data table. It's not saying that no libraries exist. It's just saying the data data
It-
table is empty.
like the library groups are still there, and I can add the libraries to the groups.
But you can't update any of the library information.
No.
I would suspect that there's something, has anybody at your library been tinkering with the JavaScript, with the system preferences for the JavaScript?
Not to my knowledge, but I can make a note to check in.
The best way I can think of to test if this is a problem with your JavaScript is to open a notepad file and then go to the system preference internet user JS and take all of that data out of that system preference and put it in the notepad file, and then save everything and then reload that page and see if it works without all your JavaScript there.
Mhm.
And if it does, then it's something that somebody at your library has done to your system.
Lauren, are you on the global koha list?
Our IT person in Germany just sent something
Okay.
out to the global community, and they pointed out that bug.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, so that's you. Okay. I was
Yeah,
just gonna
take a
mention that
little-
that just came up on the list.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it looks like maybe there's a version of a Perl model that needs to be updated. So that might be the problem, that he just needs to
mhm.
update that.
Okay. So. All right, what was I supposed to do after I copied the JavaScript into the notepad?
Delete everything out of the JavaScript file
Okay.
or system preference and hit save, and then try reloading that page
Load it. Okay.
and see if it works.
Really nice if it did. No.
And
Okay.
congratulations, it's not your fault.
Yep.
I'm always so relieved when I think I've broken something and then I figure out, no, it wasn't me.
Yeah, and I need to go through our system preferences. It feels like when they did the upgrade, something in the system preferences didn't transfer correctly on some, like we thought it meant, or it meant this on the old system and it doesn't mean that anymore. Or it's relying on a separate connected preference, and I haven't had a chance to look at it, but that's happening. And then on our facets, we've got the jQuery for the drop-down facets, and 3 of the libraries aren't appearing on the screen. But I feel like that's probably related to our library table not appearing.
I think there's a preference that came out about that. Also, are you on Elasticsearch or on Zebra? Okay.
How many branches do you have? Like, is it not loading the bottom of the list or is it random?
It's random because one is AAB library, which would be at the very top. One is SSK library, which would be somewhat in the middle. And then one is linguistic Bible translation library, which would
Okay.
And how many
they're all fairly new.
branches do you have?
23. Maybe.
And what's the sysadmin preference for facet max count? Because the default's 20, so it might be dropping the 3 that have the fewest records in the first 100 records in the search results.
That could be. Where would that preference be?
It's under search results display, or you can just put this into the top. The search system preference bar.
Okay, it says 20, so I want to make that 25. All right.
Okay. Hopefully that does it for you.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing that's what happened. And the reason it wasn't a problem before those 3 libraries was because you were at 20 libraries before those 3
Mhm.
newish ones. So it was never coming up. Okay, well, that's the top of the hour. So our next meeting will be Tuesday, January 11th. Same time, same place. And I'm going to end the recording.